Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and folks, we got our NBA Finals matchup. Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics, the Warriors, my Warriors actually, out of the West, Boston out of the East after what was a nutty Game 7 last night, which, of course, I will start the show with. I'll discuss that, as well as Darvin Ham has been hired as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Kind of like the hire. That said, it does nothing for the Lakers' title chances next season. Sorry, Los Angeles, I'm going to have to disappoint you yet again for a second straight offseason. We'll see how it plays out, though. But also, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, their legacies, certainly one of the two's legacies, is about to get really, really ugly during and specifically after these NBA Finals. I'll touch on that, as well as Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Excellent season in my view. 53 games won this season. Best record in the East. I said all season I feel like the East was the better conference and just fell short in the end against what I felt was a better Boston Celtics team. I'll discuss that later in the show, as well as at the end of the show. Most importantly, my prediction for the 2022 NBA Finals. You guys probably already know where I'm going. But we try to keep this as objective as possible. And so I will do my best on that pick. Let's see. We got a comment early. My man Grady Edwards in the comments. Shout out Grady. He says, how much your producers paying you to work on Memorial Day? Well, actually, I was going to address Memorial Day. I appreciate you, Grady. I'm not getting paid jack for this, man. But hopefully one day. But I love doing this show. But seriously, though, in all seriousness, I'm glad you brought it up, Grady. This is Memorial Day, of course. And so we just want to take the time to honor the fallen men and women who have given it all for this great nation. And, I felt like I heard somebody earlier today say it best, that America, Lord knows we've definitely got our problems. We've got a number of them. The military is not one of them, not even close. And so just the biggest respect in the world to the men and the women who died for this great nation and for us to have the freedoms that we have today. I've had numerous people in my family who have served in the military. I'm sure you have. I'm sure, everybody knows somebody, certainly I would, in their family who has, been willing to put the uniform on and give their all for the freedoms of the United States of America. So we appreciate the people still serving today who have served, and certainly on this Memorial Day, those who gave it all to serve this country. So hats off to those men and women, and we will never forget their sacrifice without a question. And so what is basically, they say Memorial Day is the kickoff of summer. I'm a more traditionalist guy. I'm more of the summer solstice type. What is it, June 20th, 21st, mid to late June. But it feels like summer. And if it feels like summer, that means the NBA Finals are on the way, and we've got our finals matchup now. The Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. My Warriors took care of business in 5 games against the Mavericks, closed it out on Thursday, so they're just chilling, man. They're just resting. Boston, on the other hand, much tougher series against the Miami Heat. And what was a weird series. I mean, the first 5 games are just beatdowns. Game 1, Miami just handed it to Boston in the third quarter, and that's all they needed in order to pull out that game. Boston smacks Miami on the road in Game 2. Game 3 is fairly close, but Miami pulls away. They build a massive lead in that game. And then Game 4, Boston comes back, blows Miami out. And then in what was a close Game 5, Boston completely shuts down the Miami Heat offense in the fourth quarter. They had really all game, but especially in the fourth, Jaylen Brown really took over. And then Game 6, we get our best game of the series. And Jimmy Butler, my guy Jimmy Butler, I love Jimmy. He scores 47 points to keep the Heat season alive. I thought they were dead in the water, folks. I did. I feel like they were going to go to Boston and get clobbered. They did not. Not only did they not get clobbered, they forced a Game 7 back at home. And it was a game where Boston, from right out the gates, built a big lead, played unbelievable defense on the other Miami Heat players. Strus, Lowry had kind of a rough night once again in these Eastern Conference Finals. And but the Celtics are up 13 points with just over 3 minutes to go. Jason Tatum hits a tough fall-away shot at the end of the shot clock buzzer, and we're thinking, man, this baby's a wrap. Where this is just for it's just for pleasantries from here on out, these last 3 minutes. And the Miami Heat, as the Heat have tended to do, they didn't go away. They go on an 11-0 run. And I'll get into that run just a second, but here's how it concluded.
Smart. Fakes. Fires. Butler. Heat can tie. For the lead. Loose. And Horford. Gonna have to foul. They do. Butler had a clean look, Jeff, and he went for the kill shot.
He went for the kill shot, as Mark Jones said last night on the call for ESPN. And let me say this about Boston, and I will move to Miami. I'm really going to hit on Miami just as a team, as an organization later in the show, so stay tuned for that. Again, I think they had a great season. Boston. Clearly the better team I think we saw in this series. Certainly, this isn't even arguable, the healthier team. I mean, Kyle Lowry's playing on half a hamstring. Tyler Hero tried to go, but man, he was limited. Jimmy Butler's got a bum knee, and he's playing basically the entire game of Game 6, and he did play the entire game last night in Game 7. You know, I mean, just PJ Tucker's 37 years old. I mean, this Miami team's kind of fallen apart physically. And it felt like that, you know, that way. Jimmy's carrying them. You know, he's scoring 30-plus points. I believe he finished, with 35 points. But we get to those last 3.5 minutes. And I got to say, it's been a while. Take the Minnesota Timberwolves out of it, because we talked about how horrible they executed in these playoff games. But for a championship-level basketball team, which clearly the Boston Celtics are because they're in the NBA Finals, that's about as poor execution down the stretch as I've ever seen in a big game by a championship-level squad. You're looking at these possessions, and you think Mike D'Antoni was a head coach. The 8 seconds or less offense, remember in Phoenix with Steve Nash? What are you doing if you're the Boston Celtics? I mean, shooting with 10 seconds of the shot clock. Jaylen Brown took one shot. He actually got called for an offensive foul because he elbowed Bam Adebayo in the chin. But you're shooting with 10, 15 seconds of the shot clock. What are you doing? Boston single-handedly let Miami back in the basketball game. They outplayed him from start to finish. They were better. Jimmy got no help last night. I mean, look at the Miami Heat last night. He shot 20% from 3, 42 from the field at home. You're not going to win many games doing that. Jimmy Butler didn't take but one shot. It was the shot we just played, the missed 3, and I'll talk about the 3 in just a second. But the missed 3 was the only shot Jimmy Butler took, and you still let Miami back in the game. You let Kyle Lowry get a couple layups, and Bam Adebayo was good on the glass. Weren't able to create any extra shots off an offensive rebound those last 3 minutes. What are you doing? And this has kind of become a very concerning trend for the Boston Celtics. They've struggled to close games. Okay, take Brooklyn out of it, because Brooklyn was never a championship-level team, and I've been telling y'all that for months. Milwaukee, even without Chris Middleton, Boston could not execute. They had a 3-point lead with a minute left in Game 3 of that series at Milwaukee. Couldn't close. They had a big lead in Game 5 in the fourth quarter against Milwaukee. Couldn't close. They were able to close Game 6 behind Jason Tatum's. I believe he scored 46 that night to force a Game 7. Of course, Boston blew Milwaukee out the floor in that game. But you think about Game 6 of this series, couldn't close. Taking ill-advised shots. And then last night, even though miraculously they won. I mean, if that Jimmy Butler shot goes down, I can't even imagine the press that Boston's getting. I mean, you want to talk about the national media? Of course, everybody's going to crush Boston. Can you imagine the Boston media? It's like Boston, New York, Philly, LA. Those are like the 4 media markets. And Dallas to a certain degree, but that's mostly because of the Cowboys. They're rough on their teams, and they don't perform up to par. So they're lucky. And I'll tell you this, Boston Celtics, you make those mistakes against Golden State, those mistakes, you're getting swept. You cannot make the. I mean, and it doesn't make sense, because we talk about the job that Ime Udoka's done. He's done a phenomenal job. I mean, this team was 25-25 at one point. They were 550 games in. So it's confusing. I mean, and then they go 26-6 down the stretch. They've lost 12 games, in the last, 40, 50? They've been playing great basketball, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. But, man, the execution down the stretch was atrocious. They've got, maybe some of it's just they're a young basketball team. Maybe some of it is they got tight. I mean, this is a Celtics team that has been on the doorstep so close so many times in the finals and just couldn't get it done. And so maybe that got into them a little bit, but I don't know what was going on in that last 3 minutes. I mean, I'm watching the game, and I swear to you, I'm standing. I mean, I'm just kind of sitting back chilling. Miami makes a couple shots, like, okay, it's a 7-point game. They're not going to do anything. Marcus Smart's going to hit a 3, and that's it. Or Tatum's going to get to the free throw. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't even, are they looking at the clock? Are they pulling like a J.R. Smith or something? What's going on? So just horrendous execution by the Boston Celtics down the stretch. And again, they're lucky Jimmy Butler isn't a very good three-point shooter. He's only like a 25% from 3. If that had been, Klay Thompson, we'd be crushing Boston today. Couple comments from Grady. He says, I'm picking Golden State in 6. I wouldn't be shocked in a tough 7-game series, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Boston chokes away a few close games and losing 5. I wouldn't be shocked if Boston won a 7-game series, is what he's saying. They have the talent to win these finals? Absolutely. 100%. They're the best team Golden State's played, absolutely, in these playoffs. Right? To this point, Golden State's toughest challenge has been Memphis. Because I told you, without Ja, Memphis was fine in the regular season and in the playoffs. But Boston's certainly much better than the Memphis Grizzlies are. And that's the thing. Talent-wise, and I'll get to my prediction later in the show, so please stay tuned for that, because there's a lot of things to break down with these finals. But my thing with Boston right now is it's not a talent issue. It's not even a defense issue, because both teams are great defensively. Boston's better. They finished first in virtually every defensive category this season and in these playoffs. But man, execution down the stretch, it's just not smart basketball. And for the record, Miami didn't play smart basketball last night either. Right? I remember at the end of the third quarter, this goes unnoticed, but at the end of the third quarter, Miami has a chance to get a 2-for-1. There's enough time they can get a 2-for-1 before the end of the quarter. They wait too long. Okay, and so it's like, okay, now let's just get the best shot. And Victor Oladipo takes a shot with 25 seconds left in the quarter where it's like, bro, you can't get a 2-for-1. Why are you jacking that from downtown so far? You're not Steph Curry or Damian Lillard. You have that. Kyle Lowry in the fourth quarter had a terrible timeout call with about 6 minutes left after he got tied up because it only let the Heat with one timeout left. You had, and so let me get to the Jimmy Butler shot, because I'm hearing a lot of different angles about this. And I obviously I live tweet during every game. Follow me on Twitter if you don't mind, at Carving It Up Pod. But I was live tweeting the game, as I do basically every playoff game. And I if I could find it, I tweeted, Jimmy shouldn't have taken that 3, because that's just, Twitter is the instant reaction central, right? It is not for Twitter's not for deep thinkers. Not that there's not deep thinkers on Twitter, there's not smart people on Twitter, but like Twitter's all about, okay, who's got the first reaction, who's got the best reaction. And I certainly could fall into that trap sometimes. But I kind of sit back and thought about it. I slept on it. I watched the play again. And here's my conclusion. Like, the question is, should Jimmy Butler have taken that shot? Yes and no. Let me start with no. Let me show you sorry for the podcast audience. Let me show you the photo of the shot. So there's Jimmy right there taking the shot over Al Horford. There is no help in the paint. Jaylen Brown, I think that's Jaylen Brown, right? I think it's Jaylen Brown over there on the far side, weak side. He's got his back turned to the play. Jason Tatum is in the corner guarding Max Strus. There's nothing he's going to be able to do to stop Jimmy Butler, unless maybe he reaches in, Butler finishes, and maybe they get an and one. Maybe they still get 3 points, right? Grant Williams is trailing the play. He's not going to pull a LeBron James memorial block, right? So Jimmy, Al Horford's getting up there in age, and he's never been known for his quick feet to begin with. Jimmy could have easily driven past Al Horford, gotten a layup, and tied the game because remember, the Heat were down 2 points. And at that point, there would have been, 20 seconds left, maybe about 15 seconds left. When Jimmy took the shot, there was, Jimmy took the shot. There was 16 seconds left, and the rebound was grabbed by Brown with about 13 seconds left. So Boston still would have had time to get a last shot, but listen, given their execution, I can't trust that they'd have gotten a good shot. Maybe Miami steals a pass. You never know, right? So in terms of just a basketball game, how you want to play the game, Jimmy Butler, given his struggles from beyond the three-point line, he should not have taken that shot. Here's yes. That's my no answer. That's why he shouldn't have taken the shot. Here's why he should have taken the shot. Jimmy Butler played 48 minutes. He played the entire basketball game. Miami they had not built any momentum all night, like any serious momentum. Even when they cut it to 2 in the fourth quarter, like early in the fourth, I never really felt like that they were going to win the game. First time all game where I'm like, oh shoot, Boston's in trouble. Jimmy's trying to capitalize on that. Not only that, but if he hits the layup, if he drives past Horford, dunks it, lays it in, whatever, ties the game, Miami stops Boston on the other end, the game goes to overtime. Is Jimmy Butler going to wear down in that 5-minute span? Keep in mind, he's already got a bum knee. The fact that he played 48 minutes and played as well as he did is a miracle, and it's a credit to Jimmy Butler's work ethic and his drive. I love the way Jimmy plays the game. But Jimmy probably would have worn out physically. Kevin Durant last year, remember KD last year hit that amazing shot against Milwaukee with a second left that sent the game to overtime in Game 7? 48 points in 48 minutes, played every second. And what happened when we got to overtime? He hit the wall. He hit the wall, right? He got tired. I think he went like 0 for 7 and airballed the game-winning shot. And KD would later say, like a couple months ago, I think it was, he said, like, I was seeing spots out there. I was so tired. It's like, yeah. 53 minutes in a Game 7 against an elite basketball team. That's a lot. And that goes for Jimmy Butler as well. So I think Jimmy, in the back of his head, possibly was thinking, I can't go 5 more minutes in overtime. I can't. We got to seize this momentum now. Because if I hit this shot, Boston's in a panic. Because they're down 1. They were up 13 just 3 minutes ago. Miami, the top would have blown off the arena in Miami. And that probably would have been it for the Boston Celtics, and the Heat would have been on to the finals. So it just depends on how you look at it. If that shot was taken in Game 3, I'm like, terrible shot. Terrible shot. Given Boston, how unprepared Boston was in transition, which is why you see a lot of coaches not call timeouts in these situations, is because the other defense does have a chance to get set, and maybe you can get a numbers advantage on a fast break. If this is any other game but Game 7 or just an elimination game in general, horrible shot. Given that it was Game 7, given that Jimmy had played 48 minutes, given that Jimmy was basically Miami's only source of offense all night, I get it. I seriously, I get it. I mean, if that was Bam Adebayo taking the shot, and by the way, too, it was Jimmy Butler taking the shot. You always hear me on my show, and Boston's had trouble with this at times in the playoffs. Miami didn't last night. I'm going to live and die by my best player. If I advance and my best player plays great, that's what we want. If we lose, but it's because our best player missed the game-winning shot, i.e. last night, okay. I don't want Kyle Lowry taking that shot. I don't want Max Strus, even though he had a big 3 with a minute left, I don't want him taking that shot. Gabe Vincent, no. I want Jimmy taking that shot. So, again, it all comes down to 2 perspectives of it. This is a topic we're going to get to later in the show. Grady says this is such poetic justice for the NBA. KD and Kyrie's ex-teams are in the NBA Finals. I trust me. I'll touch on that later in the show, Grady. And Grady says he was wide open. I see no problem with him taking that shot at all. I thought it was a great shot selection. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. In that scenario, I get it. I really do. Do I necessarily agree with it? given that it's Jimmy Butler, who's not a good three-point shooter, but I'd rather Jimmy take it than a better three-point shooter. Why? Because Jimmy's ready for the moment. So, but also, you could look at the other side of the coin, and for the crowd out there that says he shouldn't have taken the shot, and say that, well, something else. Jimmy's legs were tired. Like that three came up short. What do we know? Anybody knows basketball knows this, especially shooters definitely know this. When you miss a three short, it's either obviously didn't get enough on it, but that's usually not the case. It's because he got tired legs. Well, we know Jimmy had tired legs, A, because he had a hurt leg, and B, because he just played 48 minutes after playing, 47 the game before? Some of that miss might have just been flat out fatigue. But then again, it sort of shifts the other end where Jimmy's saying, I got nothing left of the tank. This is sort of my last shot. And then, like, again, Grady says he thought it was a good shot selection because of the guy who was taking it. Absolutely. But crazy Game 7. I picked Boston. After they lost Game 6, I still stuck with them to win Game 7, but I did not feel confident at all. That last 3 minutes shows you why I wasn't confident. And again, on Miami, I'll sort of talk about their future, sort of close the book on this season and moving forward, because I think Miami is in a very good position compared to other teams that have lost in the playoffs, but I will save that for later in the show. Appreciate everybody stopping by on this Memorial Day. I know, obviously, you guys have a lot of things to do today, and I don't know, spending some time with family, enjoying your day off work. So appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show. Let me move on now to the team that I told you guys going into the playoffs. I said I'm not going to talk about this team unless something genuinely newsworthy happens. Outside of the firing of Frank Vogel, I have not done a segment on the Lakers. I haven't. Like, I haven't done Laker talk. I don't do it. Before I get to the Lakers comment from Grady, he says, is Jimmy starting to establish himself as an all-time great? Dude is a Hall of Famer already. I agree with you. I think he's a Hall of Famer. If we're going to say that we judge players based off the playoffs, this was why we criticized James Harden, right? Because he didn't show up in the playoffs. Well, then we need to give Jimmy Butler's flowers because he's a very good regular season player. He's not a great player in the regular season, but he just goes into a different mode in the playoffs. I mean, he goes from, I don't know, throw out a random player. He goes from, they're totally different games, but in terms of like their star status, he goes from Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls, all-star level player, to like LeBron. I mean, it's unbelievable what Jimmy does in the playoffs. All-time great, I don't know, because he doesn't have the rings to back it up. Now, he's putting in championship effort, no question. They did. I'm here. Some people on social media talk about, oh, Jimmy sold or Jimmy, Jimmy choked. Jimmy choked? What are you talking about? He's the only reason they were even in that position. The fact that he even was in the position to take that last shot is a credit to him single-handedly getting Miami back in that basketball game and keeping them in it throughout. I don't know about all-time great. Not yet. He certainly has a chance to do that. And again, I'll talk about Miami in the show in terms of what they could do to sort of build this championship contender back, because certainly this was a very good season for them. But let me talk about the Lakers. They hired Darvin Ham to be their new head coach. He's longtime assistant, longtime assistant coach, most recently with the Milwaukee Bucks. He actually played in the NBA. I think the last time he played LeBron James, I think it was 2004. Either LeBron, I don't know if it was the end of LeBron's first year or beginning of his second year, and LeBron scored like 43 on him. So it's kind of a cool full circle moment that, LeBron torches this guy when he's 18, 19 years old, and then now that guy, Darvin Ham, is now coaching LeBron in what will be year 20. Do I think this is the right hire? Well, of the coaching candidates that it came down to, Darvin Ham, Kenny Atkinson, and who was the last one? I know Doc Rivers' name was mentioned. LeBron wanted them to get Doc Rivers, but the Lakers were like, no. And Terry Stotts, that's who it was. Terry Stotts, former coach of the Blazers, good coach. Don't think he's a championship level head coach. So of that group, I think they made the right decision. Kenny Atkinson wouldn't have been a good fit, not because Kenny Atkinson's not a good coach. He's assistant with my Warriors. I think Kenny Atkinson's an excellent coach. but really his specialty is developing players. That's why he worked so well in Brooklyn. That's why he's been so valuable to Steve Kerr's staff in Golden State, being able to develop these young guys, Poole and Kuminga and Moody, right? Like that, like those three guys are going to be the Warriors' core for the future, and he's helped develop them, so he deserves credit for that. But he's not going to LA to develop anybody. I don't think LeBron or Anthony Davis needs development, right? Like I think LeBron's out of his prime, but he's still great, and Anthony Davis should be in his prime, but he is made of glass. But so Kenny Atkinson would have been a great fit. Doc Rivers also would have been a great fit. Why? Because the dude, and I don't think he deserves blame for the Sixers' exit this year. That's on James and partly on Embiid. But Doc Rivers, what do we know him as? Most games, 7 losses by any coach in NBA history. I don't think you want that guy leading your team when you're trying to get back to the mountaintop that you climbed 2 years ago and winning a championship. And then the last guy obviously was Darvin Ham. So, Terry Stotts. I keep forgetting Terry Stotts. Terry Stotts is a really good offensive coach. Really good offensive coach, right? Damian Lillard had some of his best years. I mean, he's out there scoring 50 and he's scoring 60 in the bubble. Because Terry Stotts sort of iso ball pick and roll put Damian Lillard in position to succeed offensively, put CJ McCollum in position to succeed offensively. Terry Stotts is allergic to the defensive end of the floor. Allergic. That's not what the Lakers need. Right? The Lakers have always been a great defensive team for the last few years under Frank Vogel because defense is Frank Vogel's calling card. It is not Terry Stotts. So that's not the guy you want to bring in. Darvin Ham's the right choice. And I hear a lot of, no previous head coaching experience. Steve Kerr didn't have previous head coaching experience. Guess what? He's got 3 rings, maybe 4 soon. Well, Ty Lue doesn't have any head coaching experience. Yeah, his first year he won the title. Well, Nick Nurse doesn't have any head coach experience. Yeah, well, he won the title his first year in Toronto as the head coach. Well, Ime Udoka doesn't have experience. Well, he's in the finals. He's doing something right. So this no experience thing, I don't think it's as important as in the NFL. I think it is. In baseball, definitely. I don't think it's near as important in the NBA. It comes down to, do you know basketball? Because Steve Kerr, and I think Steve took this from his old head coach, Greg Popovich. Coaching in the NBA is this simple. It's not simple, but it's simply put, right? Guys know how to play the game for the most part. For the most part, guys know the game, especially veteran players. But, so 10% is X's and O's. The rest of the 90% is managing personalities, seeing what makes these guys tick, getting them to be at their best. That's what head coach in the NBA is. If you know the game, you can connect to players, you can be a successful head coach in the NBA. I think Darvin Ham has that. So the head coach isn't a concern for me with the Lakers. It's not. With that said, and I think Darvin Ham, Laker Nation, give this guy time. Because I think he is a guy that you can have for the long haul. Absolutely. Is he Monty Williams? Is he Ty Lue? We'll see. He's never been a head coach before. I'm not putting anything past him. I think he's got the experience as an assistant, as a longtime assistant in this league. He knows LeBron. I think he can be successful in this league. Absolutely. He's better options than the other 3, given the Lakers' current situation. That said, this does nothing for the Lakers' 2023 title chances. Absolutely nothing. You know why? It's not because LeBron. Well, AD can't stay healthy, so that's a concern. But the biggest reason why, folks, in all likelihood, Russell Westbrook's coming back next season. According to Mark Stein, that this report came out, I believe, yesterday. The Lakers plan to keep Russell Westbrook because they refuse to give up additional assets to send Westbrook out. So basically, they're not going to trade Westbrook because they're not willing to give up a first or even 2 first-round picks. Me? I'm willing to do anything to get rid of Russell Westbrook, except for giving up LeBron James or Anthony Davis. I mean, teams around the NBA are not stupid. They say a guy who's going to make $47 million who is a liability. Like, he's got the worst contract in the NBA, he and John Wall. And probably soon James Harden, right? that they don't want to inherit that even for 1 year, because this is the last year of Russell's deal. Westbrook would be crazy not to opt into this this player option, because there's not anybody who's give him even close to $47 million. I don't think they'd even give him $30 million. Right? So this is his last chance to make, the big bucks for a full season. So Westbrook's opting into his deal. Lakers don't want to send him out if it means giving up the few assets that they have. And that's another reason that the Lakers are trapped. They have no assets. What is it, like 9 players from their roster this past season are free agents? You got nothing. Nothing. You bring Blink Monk back, right? He's really one of the few guys that you can count on and who had a good season. But, geez, this is not a championship level team. If Russ is there, forget about it. By the way, LeBron is in year 20. He scored 30 points a game, had a good individual season last year, but sort of a Bradley Beal type season where his numbers were not conducive to winning. Right? Anthony Davis, Chuck called him street clothes. He wasn't lying. We saw him in street clothes for 46 games last year? I think that's the number of games he missed. So Anthony Davis, his past behavior predicts future behavior. Unless AD takes better care of his body moving forward, and that's not something you can count on, now that he's got a championship, he's already made a ton of money. In his mind, he has nothing to prove. Well, and this is coming from me, folks, who does not like the Lakers in the slightest, hate the Lakers. But one thing I will say about the Los Angeles Lakers, it's never enough in a good way, right? You win a championship? Okay, cool. Win another one next year. Okay, win another one. Get another. It's like DJ Khaled. Get another one. That's the expectation if you put on the purple and gold. I think Anthony Davis has had sort of a rough time of accepting that or realizing that about the Los Angeles Lakers. I think LeBron gets it. I think the issue for LeBron is his body and his age. Not in terms of scoring. We know he can still score. He averaged 30 a game last year. He had a 56-point game against my Warriors on a Saturday night game in March in LA. But his age, he's not going to give you what he once could on the defensive end of the floor. He's still a viable defender, but still not great. Right? He's not going to lock you up. And so just when I look at the Lakers, lack of assets, lack of cap space, Westbrook, the second best player, Anthony Davis, cannot stay healthy. Why on earth would I look at this as a championship team? The real debate should be, are they a playoff team? Let's look at the Western Conference. Let's sort of project what the West is going to be next year. Okay, so who are the locks in the Western Conference to make the playoffs? Golden State, Memphis, the Clippers, if Kawhi and Paul George are healthy, like that, those are your locks. Dallas, right? Golden State, Dallas, Memphis, Phoenix most likely, right? If Chris Paul comes back, Devin Booker, probably going to have the same result as we did in the playoffs this year, but they're going to make the playoffs. They did just win 64 games. Let's not sleep on that. And so then that's 5 spots right there. Phoenix, Memphis, Golden State, Dallas, Clippers. So you got 3 spots left. Those are the locks. You got 3 spots left. I think Denver's in because you got Jamal Murray coming back and Michael Porter Jr., I think whether or not he comes back. If they made the playoffs without Jamal Murray, they're going to make it if he comes back or when he comes back this coming season. Okay, so that's 2 spots left. Looking down, Utah is kind of iffy because I think Donovan Mitchell's about ready to move on from Utah. Don't frankly blame him. I think New Orleans is in. I mean, you look what they did in the postseason. The start they got off to this season. And I commend Willie Green, disciple of Steve Kerr, former assistant coach for the Warriors. But Willie Green comes in, changes the culture in New Orleans. No Zion Williamson. Although I don't think Zion and Brandon Ingram fit, but that's another topic for another day. Brandon Ingram turns into, looks like a top 5 scorer in the playoffs. CJ McCollum, his veteran leadership coming in, getting buckets, doing what he did in Portland. Huge. The young guys, Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado, Valanciunas, this is the future. The Pelicans are going to make the playoffs next season if they're healthy. So that's 1 spot. So then you're talking about Lakers, Minnesota, Spurs. Don't forget Damian Lillard's coming back for Portland. Doesn't look like he wants out. He's coming back. Portland's much better defensively. They're definitely not a title contender, but it's not. Let's stop talking championships right now for the Lakers unless they somehow get rid of Westbrook and somehow put a good roster behind LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, you're asking. I mean, and here's something else. Because the Lakers are so trapped, a report came out a week and a half ago. A report came out that the Lakers, in their interviewing process, were asking the coaches how they'd be able to make Westbrook work. You are hiring them to be a head coach, right? I just want to make sure, like, the Lakers are trying to bring a new head coach in, right? Are they trying to bring a head coach or a wizard? Because Russell ain't changing for nobody. He wouldn't change for LeBron. So you think he's going to change for Darvin Ham? Lakers probably get in the play-in tournament. I'll give him that. I mean, so at that point, they'd have to beat out Sacramento, Houston, OKC. They'll beat those teams out. And then we're talking Minnesota, San Antonio, Portland. I mean, those are the teams they got to beat. Okay. Let's see. A few comments. Grady says, I'm sure deep down the Lakers brass wanted Kurt Rambis. Maybe they did. And Kurt knows basketball, but no, that would not have worked. And you got Kurt Rambis talking crazy. Phil Jackson talking even crazier. I don't know what's going on, Phil. Grady says, hiring Terry Stotts would have been like hiring Vogel. Average coach who can be a championship level coach with great players. No need to recycle the old boring names. Absolutely. I agree. John said they won already. We're talking about them in May, LOL. Well, but hey, listen, John, we're always going to talk about the Lakers in May, just like we're going to talk about the Cowboys in April. When it doesn't relate to the draft, we're going to talk about the Yankees in December. That's how it works. These big brands. We talk about Duke basketball, Alabama. I mean, y'all saw what happened with Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher last week. I wish I'd been out on the show to talk about that, but we're always going to talk about these big brands, these iconic brands in sports. I'm sure over the seas they talk about Manchester United constantly, even when they're not playing. So, but yeah, you're right. We are talking about them in May. In terms of attention, the Lakers are never short on that. We know that. They're never boring. They are never boring. You can give the Lakers that. That's why they're reminding me a lot of the Dallas Cowboys recently for a number of reasons. I did a segment on that a couple months ago. Very similar. All right, moving on. Sticking the NBA. This is an all-NBA show today. No NFL topics. Man. So, this has got to be a rough day for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Because those two teamed up in 2019 in free agency to go to the Brooklyn Nets and to try and build a championship-level team. And you think with those two guys, you got the star power to win a championship. Just put the pieces around them, right? And they butchered their depth by trading for James Harden, and they butchered even more by trading James Harden. And it was just sort of a rough turn of events of these last few years. You got Kevin Durant's injury the first year. Kyrie also got hurt that first year. Kyrie got hurt the second year in the playoffs. Then he had the vax stuff. KD got hurt midseason. It's just been a mess. And they've won one playoff series in 3 years. Kyrie left the Boston Celtics. Kevin Durant left the Golden State Warriors. I think you see what I'm getting at here. This goes to show you, once again, that do you need superstars to win a title? 1,000% yes. 1,000% yes. Steph Curry's a superstar. We know that. Jason Tatum's a superstar. Can we just, let's not mess around with this anymore. Jason Tatum's a superstar. Okay. Guys who aren't superstars don't beat KD, Giannis, and the number one seed to get to the finals and ball out in the process. Jason Tatum's a superstar. So, and he's only 24, which, he's not even in his prime yet, which is scary. But Kyrie left a Celtics culture which develops players incredibly well. I mean, outside of Al Horford, Derek White, like most of the key contributors for the Celtics were drafted by them. Tatum, Brown, Smart, the two Williams, Grant and Robert, Peyton Pritchard was drafted by them. That's the Celtics' bread and butter. Golden State, most of their key contributors were drafted by them. Obviously, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, Moses Moody. Like, those are the key contributors for the Warriors. And even some of the guys who haven't, been in Golden State for their entire career, Andre Iguodala has been there a long time. So guys who have been a part of the culture for years and years and years. Brooklyn, their plan was let's just put together a talented team, hire a coach. Kyrie said a couple of years ago, we don't even need a coach. We don't need a coach. Me and KD can do it by ourselves. Well, it doesn't hurt to have Steve Kerr or Ime Udoka. It doesn't hurt to have, defense. I saw a stat the other day with the Brooklyn Nets. It's mind-blowing. They are the only team that made the playoffs this year to shoot over 50% from the field. So they made more shots than they missed. And they did not win forget series. They didn't win a playoff game. Why? They're atrocious on the defensive end of the floor. Atrocious. This is what happens when you leave, and I'm talking specifically more to KD because Kyrie is his own guy. This is what happens when you leave a championship-level culture. You're a championship-level player, and then you settle for weird. You settle for unproven, which the Brooklyn Nets are not. This franchise has never won a championship. This is what happens. So, you think about today. The Boston Celtics, since Kyrie Irving left, have won 5 playoff series. 5. 2 in 2020, 3 in 2022. 4 of those series have been won in 7 games. I'm sorry, 3 of those series have been won in 7 games. As for the Warriors, they've won 3 playoff series since KD left. Combined, KD, Kyrie, uno. And their only playoff series win came against the Boston Celtics. First of all, they had James Harden. Secondly, they played a Boston Celtics team that did not have Jaylen Brown. They did not have Derek White yet. They did not have Al Horford. Grant and Robert Williams had still yet to develop. Peyton Pritchard wasn't even in their rotation. And Brooklyn won that series. Yeah, I'd hope. What have they done? Our only iconic Nets moment since KD and Kyrie joined the team was in a loss. When KD hits that unbelievable shot over PJ Tucker to tie Game 7 and send it to overtime. But they lost that game. What's the iconic moment for the Celtics? Probably, to this point, in my opinion, beating the defending champs of the second round in 7 games. For Golden State, it's playing a Luka Doncic who people said was the best player in the playoffs and forcing him to shoot barely 40% from the field. That's their crowning achievement. What's Brooklyn done? So it goes to, like I've said, I don't have a problem. I do have a problem with Kyrie wanting to be the man because he's not the man. He's not. He's not in the level of some of the best players in the NBA. And he doesn't have the leadership intangibles to do it. I think Kevin Durant does. Kevin Durant showed his leadership intangibles when he led our country to win gold. It was looking a little shaky there. Remember, I talked about in the show, I was like, are we actually not going to medal in these Olympics? And Katie's like, no, don't worry about that. We going to get the gold. And they did. Kevin's more of a lead by example type of guy. He's not really a rah-rah type of dude. Katie's got the ability to be a number 1 guy in a championship team. Clearly. It's not, if he would have left, leaving Golden State by itself is a bad decision. Okay, because A, you leave a talented team. B, you leave a talented team that has unbelievable chemistry and is great defensively. C, you leave a great coach. D, you leave great ownership that's always going to put a great roster around you. Or a great GM, I should say, and Bob Myers. But if he had left Golden State and went to the Clippers, you got Ty Lue, right? Steve Ballmer is an excellent owner. Is never satisfied with second place. He's always trying to be the best. Like he's the opposite of the previous owner, right? Good roster. You'd have had either Kawhi or Paul George, one of the two. Deep roster, well coached. Okay, I get it. If he'd have went to Milwaukee and teamed up with Giannis, that'd have been scary. Okay, I get it. Deep roster, phenomenal co-star. I'd have understood it. If he'd have went to Miami, championship level culture, Pat Riley, Jimmy Butler's there. How about Jimmy Butler's your second best player? That'd be nice. Eric Spoelstra's a great coach. Deep roster, develops talent well. But he went to Brooklyn and he chose Kyrie as a second star? What are you doing? So I said it on the show. People crushed KD when he left Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City to go to Golden State. That's not going to be the biggest stain in his career. Everybody's talking about the biggest stain on Kevin Durant's career is that he never won a championship without Steph Curry. It'll be a stain, not the biggest stain. The biggest stain is that not just that he didn't win a championship without Steph, that he left Steph for Kyrie Irving. A guy who, as I've said before, what has Kyrie done without LeBron? First 3 years of his career, they didn't even make the Cavs did not sniff the playoffs. Okay, you had the 3-year finals run with LeBron. You won out. You want to be the man in Boston. Well, you get traded to Boston. You get hurt, and they get to within a win of the finals without you. You come back. You're healthy for the next playoff run, and you get smoked in the second round. Then you go to Brooklyn, and you get hurt, miss the playoffs. Then the second year, you get to the playoffs, and then you get hurt again. And then this year, vax stuff, health, swept out of the first round. What has Kyrie Irving done without LeBron James? Just asking for a friend. So, no, this is going to be the biggest stain of Kevin Durant's career if he does not go on to win a championship elsewhere. Because either Brooklyn's going to have to move on from Kyrie, which reports are saying they probably are. And so then at that point, it's going to be, okay, now who are you going to team up with KD? Which, hey, I'd like to play. If I were a superstar, I'd love to play with KD. Who wouldn't? He's the most gifted scorer I've ever seen. Can you put depth around him? Can you find a new head coach? Because I like Steve Nash, loved him as a player. He's not a good head coach. He's not. In terms of making adjustments, certainly in terms of getting his team to buy into the defense into the floor, Steve Nash is not a championship-level coach. So that's the thing. You leave a championship-level culture. Not just leave a championship-level culture. You leave that for weird. Yeah. There's a reason that they're flourishing without you. That's it. Because I heard this narrative for the last 3 years. Oh, because that was part of the reason people said the Warriors dynasty was over is because KD left. And I never understood that. Because KD joined people really misconstrued this. I want to break this down in simplest terms. KD did not make the Warriors great. He made them unbeatable. If KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond were healthy, it was impossible to beat the Warriors in a 7-game series. Couldn't do it. No team ever did it. Houston came close. No team ever did it. But the narrative about him making them great isn't true because they were already great. If Golden State was like the 4 or 5 seed in the West, maybe got to a conference finals, KD, joins and puts them over the top, okay. They won 67 games in a championship in 2015. They win 73 games, a record 73 games, and come within a minute of winning a second championship in 2016. KD joining that group made it, okay, it's over. What's the point of even playing the games? Nobody's beating these guys. That's what it is. KD made the Warriors unbeatable. But they're still great even without him if they have the full crew. And we're seeing that this year with my Warriors. Man, I'm excited about the finals. And I'll get to my finals prediction at the end of the show. Celtics Warriors. It's going to be a fun one for sure. Two talented, well-coached teams, well-run franchises. It's going to be a fun one. And two loud home courts. In Chase and in Boston. Of course, the Chase Center is the loudest and the best home court in the NBA. My evidence for that is that the Warriors have not lost at home these playoffs through the first 3 rounds. But of course, Boston is a better team than they played throughout. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'll have my prediction at the end of the show. But before that, got one more topic before my prediction, is the Miami Heat. Circling back around to the Miami Heat, their season is over. And like I said, very much a successful season. Absolutely. 53 wins, best record in an Eastern Conference that had the defending champion Bucks, these Boston Celtics, right? A Boston Celtics team who Miami should not have been, in the series with. You got, obviously, Philadelphia, who we knew was no joke. Toronto had a good season. Toronto surprised a lot of people this year. Chicago Bulls, at least for the first half of the season, were formidable. DeMar DeRozan had a great year. So, out of that group, Miami was the best team. All right, they were tied for the 3rd best record in the NBA. Had all kinds of injuries. Lowry, Jimmy, Bam. They kind of dealt with injuries all season long, very similar to Golden State. They were just, somebody was out at some point in every game of the season, it felt like. So that success in the regular season and getting to within a shot of the finals, given all the injuries, I can't say enough about this team, this organization. Eric Spoelstra is a Hall of Fame coach. This Eric Spoelstra disrespect has got to stop. It's been going on since the days of the Heatles when people act like he was just, any coach could win with this team. Really? Steve Nash had won with KD and Kyrie. David Black couldn't win with LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love. So, and it's Eric Spoelstra, not just another coach. He's a phenomenal coach. And in Miami, it's a great defensive team, great culture. Pat Riley is the evil mastermind, So he's gonna do something this offseason. And what Miami needs to do, I think they need to do 2 things. One, internally with the guys they already have, and then one thing that they could do externally in this offseason to improve the roster. I don't think Bam Adebayo should play at center. I think he struggles to finish inside against bigger guys. We saw that against Robert Williams. Again, Bam's only good game in this series was game 3. Robert Williams was out. Big, strong body, makes it tough on Bam, who's obviously big and strong himself, but he's 6'9". Robert Williams is about, what are we going to give him, 6'11", 7 feet tall? So there's that aspect. Bam is a power forward. He's not a center. So I think adding a not even a superstar big man. And I'm hearing a lot of Joel Embiid stuff. Joel Embiid's staying in Philly this year, at least this year. So, but bring in a center who is a true big, a true 7-footer to occupy the paint. And maybe because Bam's a decent ball handler, solid mid-range shooter. He can improve in that area, and maybe even in his 3-point shot. He's more of a traditional power forward than he is a big. Because that was one of Miami's issues. They don't have any size. Like Dwayne Dedmon was really their only, true big. Well, Dwayne Dedmon, that's not exactly going to cut it and get it done. So there's that. The second thing, I think Miami needs to go get Bradley Beal. They have the assets to do it. I can't imagine Bradley Beal's happy in Washington. I just can't see that because, Washington is not exactly known for being in the winning conversation very often. Bradley Beal is a 30-point per game scorer. He fits well with Jimmy because now Jimmy won't have to put the team on his back every meaningful game that they play, whether it's a game 6 elimination game, a game 7 like last night. Like if Bradley Beal's there, you'd rather him take the 3, maybe not the last shot, but the 3 as opposed to Jimmy because he's a better 3-point shooter and he's a better overall scorer than Jimmy. So if you could pair those guys up, move Jimmy to sort of the small forward role where he's already at now, put Bam at the 4 as the power forward, bring in a true big. The thing about Kyle Lowry, people kind of crushing Kyle Lowry, and he didn't have a great series. One thing I will give Kyle is he was playing on half a hamstring because his hamstring, he got hurt against Atlanta. He was in and out of the lineup against Philly. He dealt with the issue in this series against the Celtics. Kyle Lowry needs to come back. I don't think you trade Kyle Lowry, but you got assets, you got depth. Go out and get Bradley Beal. I mean, a starting lineup, a starting lineup of Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and insert 7-footer. Now, you would probably have to trade Tyler Hero. But as good as he is, 6th man of the year, deserved it. Was my preseason pick to win 6th man of the year, 20-point per game guy. They still almost won without Tyler Hero. And Tyler Hero, even when he was healthy, had a terrible series. So he kind of goes in and out. Some of that's just him being a young player. But I think in order to get Bradley Beal, you're going to have to give up, a guy like Tyler Hero possibly. And he's up for an extension. So would you rather pay him big money or bring Bradley Beal in? So that's another question that the Heat gotta ask. And something else about Miami. You're not necessarily going to bring another Tyler Hero into the building because Tyler Hero was a lottery pick. But what you can do is develop guys. I didn't know who Gabe Vincent was until like March. I didn't know who Max Strus was until, January, February. Who are these guys? They're undrafted. Well, Miami turns damaged goods into rotation guys on championship contending teams. That's what Miami has always done. Certainly in the Eric Spoelstra era. So they'll find a diamond in the rough, whether it's in the second round of the draft, undrafted free agent, little known current NBA free agent. Bring him in, insert him in the Heat culture. That's another thing about great cultures, KD and Kyrie. Guys who aren't let's think about the Warriors for a second. Otto Porter Jr., we thought him as a good player, but a bust. He was a top pick not the top pick, but a top pick, I think, in 2013. Injuries, never even came close to panning out the way we thought Otto Porter Jr. would pan out. But he comes to the Warriors, and you're like, oh my goodness, they need Otto Porter to win a championship. Well, that's what championship cultures do. Al Horford's old, but they need him. If you take Al Horford out of the series, Boston's not winning. Boston's got no chance of winning because of what he gives them defensively, and he can give you 20 a night. He scored 34 points or whatever it was against Milwaukee in that game. You have to have Al Horford. These veteran players will want to come to Miami. First of all, who doesn't want to go to Miami? Who doesn't want? Come on. But you're entering a championship culture. Pat Riley running the show. Eric Spoelstra coaching the team. You get to play with Jimmy Butler. It's very attractive for free agents. So I'm just saying, I said Philadelphia is stuck in quicksand because James Harden is a free agent. See, you can't, unless you do a sign and trade, you can't really move him. You're trying to build around Joel Embiid, but you gave up all your depth in the Harden trade and in these other trades. So you're stuck. Miami's not stuck. Miami's going to be here. Miami is going to, one thing I will guarantee you, and it's way too early because the offseason, we haven't even had the draft yet. Okay, so it's still way too early to determine, what's going to happen this NBA offseason. And I do think we're going to have a lot of moves. A lot of moves that people don't see coming, but they happen, and it's going to, kind of catch us all by surprise because people are trying to catch up with the Warriors. I think the thing with Miami is they have the assets, and the one guarantee I'll have for the Heat next season, they're going to be better. They're going to be better than they were this year. And this year, they almost made the finals. So they did kind of eliminate Trae Young and, beat the Philadelphia 76ers, although I would argue James Harden and Joel Embiid had just as much to do with that as Miami did. And then the Eastern Conference Finals, undermanned against a better Celtics team. Timeout. If that Jimmy Butler shot goes in, you're playing Golden State on Thursday. That's Heat culture. Everybody talks about Heat culture. That's what it is right there. They don't go down quietly. There's no question about that. All right, man. This is a good day. This is a good day to be a Warriors fan. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even just gonna front and act like this isn't awesome, because Golden State's already deep. We know this. Strength in numbers. We've been hearing this since 2015. They're deep without 3 guys on their roster who have been hurt in and out of these playoffs, because you're missing 3 guys. Otto Porter Jr., Gary Payton, and Andre Iguodala. And according to this article, I think written by Tony Pesta. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. It looks like Gary Payton is almost certain to come back into the lineup. It said he practiced today with the team. Otto Porter is questionable. He's been dealing with some foot issues his whole career. Certainly this year, he dealt with it against Memphis. He's dealt with it against Dallas. So can he come back and still be a good contributor? Members of Dub Nation, fellow members of Dub Nation, y'all know how important Otto Porter's been, especially in that second round against the Grizzlies. He was huge before he got hurt. He's questionable. And there's one other guy that I need to come back. Frankly, I want to come back. You know who I want to come back?
I want Iguodala.
And it looks like he's probably coming back too. The Warriors, his status is listed as hopeful. It says that the latest reports say Iguodala is likely to return at some point in the finals, and how much he's able to play and impact the game remains to be seen. So, again, we got to see about that. But Iguodala obviously is not the offensive threat he used to be, not even close. But where he has made his presence felt in this team, and this is why I was so excited about him coming back to the Warriors, is that, I mean, he's not going to give you, on a good night, Andre Iguodala gives you 10 points. He's never been a great shooter. Obviously, at 38 years of age, his athleticism has waned. But with a team with a lot of young players, you've already got the leadership of veterans like Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Looney. The leadership of Andre Iguodala is, I mean, Steve Kerr said the other day, Iguodala, because he's only played 32 games, has been like an assistant coach. Obviously knows the game at a very high level. His basketball IQ is off the charts. That's one thing about the Warriors. High basketball IQs across the board, starting with Draymond Green. And Iguodala certainly in that group too. But being able to help these guys, give them tips, ins and outs of the game, ins and outs of being an NBA player. He's been around the block. He's been there, done that. He's played with a few teams in this league. Certainly Golden State being one of them where he's had his greatest success in the playoffs. So having him there has been invaluable. So in getting him on the court, if he gives you a dunk and, like one hammer dunk and a couple of strips, whether it's against a big man, against Jason Tatum backing him down, that's all you can ask for from Andre. And if he gives you that, that's obviously a boost for the Warriors. And obviously Otto Porter Jr. and Gary Payton, especially coming back, is huge. Like if you could put Gary Payton on maybe Jaylen Brown occasionally, give Wiggins and Clay a break. If you can obviously put him on Derek White, Marcus Smart, take them completely out of the game, that's huge. And Gary Payton, who did not have a good season this year, three-point shooting, has been really good in the playoffs in that department. In Game 5 against Denver in the first round, he hit three huge shots. So having those three back is massive against the Boston Celtics. So that's the thing for the Warriors. They're getting guys back. They're in the finals, and they're getting guys back from injury, which is obviously a great sign. Okay, enough funny business. 30 teams came into the season with championship hopes. Obviously, not all of them were realistic. Oklahoma City wasn't winning a championship, of course, but everybody in the back of their head, in a lot of cases with some teams, in the front of their head, was thinking, this is our year. We're going to win the championship. 2 teams still have a shot to do that. 2 teams still have a realistic goal, a realistic shot of winning the 2022 NBA title. So without further ado, let's get it on. You got the Boston Celtics out of the Eastern Conference, my Golden State Warriors out of the Western Conference. This series will tip off on Thursday evening in Golden State at the Chase Center in San Francisco. In California, Golden State is a 3.5-point favorite in Game 1. I'll predict the games as they go throughout the series. But the thing for Golden State and Boston is this: their journeys to get to the finals have been drastically different. Golden State has only seen one Game 6, much less a Game 7. Boston has had 2 drag-out, hard-fought Game 7 or 7-game series against the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks in the second round, and then against the Miami Heat, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jason Tatum, as I said earlier in the show, is a superstar. No question about it. He's in that group. He is easily a top 10 player in this league. No question. Jaylen Brown has solidified himself as a true number 2 guy on a championship team. He can give you 40, which he did in one of the games of the Eastern Conference Finals. He's got a decent handle, good three-point shot, can get to the basket, and a really good defensive player. You look at the guards that they have. Marcus Smart, yeah, all he did was win Defensive Player of the Year. Derek White, who I think is not that far behind as a defensive player, excellent. He learned that, with the San Antonio Spurs and has brought that over to Boston. You've got unbelievable, help down low, starting with Al Horford, going to Robert Williams, going to Daniel Tice, who comes in at times to sort of, fill in the minutes there. And then you got guys come off the bench, who could knock down the three. Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard. So the thing about Boston is they have they can beat you in many different ways. That's the one thing that Miami couldn't do. That's why I would have been thrilled to play the Heat in the finals, because Miami can only really beat you one way. Boston's got a number of ways to do it. They can beat you with the 3-ball. They can beat you in an ugly game, which they had to do a lot against the Heat. There's many ways that they can win finals games. As for my Warriors, this is their 6th finals appearance in 8 years. When we say been there, done that, this is the epitome of that. Steph Curry, we know what he represents. The big narrative for Steph in these finals, of course, elephant in the room, does he finally win a finals MVP this year? Does he get his 4th ring? But does he finally get a finals MVP? Klay Thompson has had a brutal last 2 years of ACL rehab, and then even worse, Achilles rehab. Yet he has come back, and he's not been quite Klay before the injury, but he did just score 32 points in a closeout game. He has been excellent defensively, played great defensively against Luka in the Western Conference Finals. Draymond Green, I don't know what people are talking about saying he's fell off, but as Eminem said, you forgot about Dre. Don't forget about Draymond Green now. You're talking about the depth. Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins have been massive as scorers. Wiggins as a number 1 primary defensive player against the other team's best wing. Kevon Looney has been invaluable. Has not missed a game this season. Is I think one of only 5 or 6 players in the whole league to do that. Hasn't missed a game, obviously, in the playoffs as well. Offensive rebounding machine. Great interior presence. And the thing about Kevon Looney that he doesn't get enough credit for, really good perimeter defender for his size. He looks like he's kind of slow and clumsy. He can stay with dudes on the perimeter. He's shown that previously in the playoffs, and he's really done that this year against the likes in this past round, against the likes of Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. So he can do that if they get a switch onto Tatum or onto Brown or onto Marcus Smart. So Kevon Looney gives you that. Honestly, I just talked about Otto Porter Jr. Does he play? What can he give you? Gary Payton looks like he's close to 100%. Having those guys in the lineup is huge. Moses Moody, I think, is going to be a factor as well with his ability to shoot the 3-ball. I think he's going to be more valuable in the long run in this series, not in the future, but in this series, over Jonathan Kuminga. I hear a lot of folks talking about Boston's size. I get that. I talk about their 3 bigs, Horford, Williams, and Tice. And I hear about people talk about Boston's defense, as they absolutely should. Boston, in the regular season, was number 1 in defensive efficiency, opponent points per game, opponent's field goal percentage, opponent's 3-point percentage, and opponent's assists per game. First in every single category. Golden State was not far behind in those categories I just mentioned. Golden State was second, third. So they're not far behind. So the gap in defense, Boston's better, but the gap in defense in terms of efficiency, field goal percentage, points per game, all of that, assists per game, it's Boston and Golden State right there. So there isn't a massive gap on that end of the floor between these two teams. Boston obviously has the offensive threats. I already mentioned them. Golden State has more offensive threats, better offensive threats, if I'm being completely honest. They're a better three-point shooting team than the Boston Celtics are. Ime Udoka is an excellent head coach, but as I detailed earlier in the show, man, they've been bad in close games in the playoffs. Golden State has been outstanding in close games in these playoffs. Whether it's Steph, Klay, Jordan Poole closing out these games, they've done that. Andrew Wiggins has played an even bigger role as the playoffs have gone on. Draymond Green can take your best defensive player in the biggest moments, the last 2 minutes of games. And something else, and this does matter, people roll their eyes at this, but you want to know how many games combined, every single player on the roster combined, the number of finals games that the Boston Celtics have played, like this Boston Celtics team has played. 0. For every single player on the Celtics roster, this is going to be the first finals game of their career. Golden State combined, the entire roster combined, has played 123 finals games. 123 to goose egg. That's the biggest gap in the finals since the Chicago Bulls and the Utah Jazz played in 1997. Of course, the Bulls went on to win that series in 6 games after the Steve Kerr game-winning shot. Well, Steve Kerr's part of this series as well. Steve Kerr has definitely been there and done that. He's been to double-digit NBA Finals in his career. So I think he's been to 11, 12, something like that. He's been around the block on this stage. It's not going to be too big for Steve Kerr, and I worry about late-game execution. I think we're going to see some close games in these finals. I absolutely think that. I think game 1, certainly I'm leaning the Warriors' way. Vegas is leaning the Warriors' way. I'll get into that more on Thursday. But when it is all said and done, the winner of the 2022 NBA Finals, and thus the 2022 NBA champion, will be my Golden State Warriors, and I think they do it quickly. I think this baby is over in 5. This is a 3rd gentleman's sweep in these playoffs for Golden State. Midway through Game 7, I'm thinking, okay, this will be a 6, maybe even a 7-gamer. But Boston got tight in late in that Game 7 against Miami. Like, real tight. You cannot have how do you have a 13-point lead in the last 3 minutes and just freeze? I can't explain it. I'm not sure Boston can explain it. And so, with that complete lack of experience, the beauty of the Warriors and Celtics is everything Boston does, Golden State does better. And let's not bring this out of it. Boston's hungry. Let's not make any mistake about that. Boston's hungry. They've had to go through playoff trial after trial against, Toronto and Milwaukee and LeBron in Cleveland in 2018. They've seen it. Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden last year. They've seen everything. They've been eliminated by seemingly everybody in the East. This is finally their moment, getting to the top, winning the Eastern Conference, finally getting to the finals with this core group. They're hungry. They ain't as hungry as the guys at Golden State. That I can guarantee you. Steph Curry, for a number of reasons: A, no finals MVPs. B, he wants to prove that he can win after Kevin Durant leaves. I think that goes for all the Warriors players, but especially Steph. There's a really false narrative going around, and has gone around for a long time, that Steph isn't as good in the finals as he is in the regular season. That's not true. I'll give you the numbers on Thursday to back it up, but he's got higher points per game average in the finals than like Kareem, Bird, D-Wade. Steph shows up in the finals, and he's going to do that. He's going to show up once again. Klay Thompson has been the hell and back with these injuries. He's been waiting on this moment for a very long time. The last time we saw Klay Thompson on a floor in the finals, he had just forced his way to go back out in the court, make 2 free throws after he tore his ACL. A lot has happened to Klay Thompson since then. He is ready for this moment. You saw how emotional he was when the Warriors won the Western Conference. He's going to show that same type of emotion and bring that same level of intensity on both ends as a great two-way player. Draymond Green, enough said. He's, as Draymond told y'all in November, a month into the season, he said, and I quote, "Don't let us win an effing championship." Okay, so Draymond's hungry. Don't have to worry about that. Andrew Wiggins, who's, he's had to hear about, oh, you're not the number 1 pick, and you failed in Minnesota, and this and that, and this and that. And Andrew Wiggins is like, bro, I'm four wins away from putting a ring on my finger. Being a part of a championship culture, right? This is a hungry Warriors team. Kevon Looney's going to bring that intensity. And these young players are going to want to show up for the vets. And they're going to want to win a championship themselves. So, with that all said and done, the Warriors win the finals in 5 games, and thus, again, will be your 2022 NBA champions. This will be the Warriors' 7th title in franchise history, surpassing teams like the Chicago Bulls. And your finals MVP will be Wardell Stephen Curry II, winning finally, after he was robbed twice in 2015 and 2018, finally winning his first NBA Finals Most Valuable Player award and cementing himself as not just the best player on the planet, which I said he would be with a Finals MVP back in February. Go look at the tape. I said that. But also, unquestionably, a top 10 player of all time. One of the 10 greatest basketball players who ever did it. Steph Curry will be your Finals MVP, and the Warriors will be 2022 NBA champions after dethroning the Boston Celtics in 5 games. I think late game execution will be huge. I think, and that obviously favors the Warriors. And I think, listen, they clinched all 3 playoff series to this point at home. Like something else too. Golden State's undefeated at home. Boston really struggles at home. Well, I mean, what's their record? So they took the first 2 games against Brooklyn. They went 2-2 at home against Milwaukee, so 500 basketball. And they lost 2. So they went 1-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. Boston isn't very good at home these playoffs. They're like playing like 500 basketball at home. Golden State's undefeated at home. And by the way, the Warriors have won a road game in 26 straight playoff series. That's unbelievable. 26 playoff series that the Warriors have won at least one road game. That's what you got to do to be a championship team. You got to win on the road. And that's the thing. Boston has to win on the road in order to win the series because Golden State has the home court. So the way I think it plays out, Golden State takes the first 2 at home. Boston takes game 3. Warriors go on, bounce back in game 4, win, and they close this baby out at the Chase Center in the Bay Area, and it'll be a fun celebration that night. That's what's going to happen. That's my finals prediction. Let's see. John says they're hungrier than Golden State. I didn't say they weren't hungry, but I think given the last 3 years, John, it's because people have told both teams, just blow it up. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Blow it up. This what you have currently constructed is not going to win a championship. But the difference is Golden State had won it with that crew before, and people still said they couldn't win. They've had to hear this dynasty is over talk for a long time. And John vehemently disagrees with my finals pick. He says, in 5, test this kid. Hey, I think these are 2 evenly matched basketball teams. And people talking about size with Boston. Well, Memphis was big too. Memphis led the NBA in rebounding. They're a big team. Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark led the NBA in rebounding. Golden State, a much smaller team, out-rebounded Memphis in 5 of the 6 wins. Or games, not wins. Games. So size isn't going to be an issue for Golden State. They can throw Looney at you. They can throw Bielitsa at you. Draymond, we know, can guard the 5. I mean, he shut down Jokic. So Al Horford and Robert Williams isn't going to be any problem for Draymond on the defensive end of the floor. So, yes, I feel extremely confident. Dubs in 5. Here we go. These NBA finals are going to be amazing, man. And I'll tell you what, like I told y'all. You saw my celebration on Friday, us getting to the finals. You wait till, what would that be? Let me check my phone. Check my calendar. So game 5 would be on June 13th. Okay, June 14th is a Tuesday. I would do a Tuesday show. Obviously the show is Monday, Thursday, Friday, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. You know what comes on. I'm going to do a show on Tuesday, or just whenever at the day after the Warriors won the finals, because it's going to happen. You know why it's going to happen? Because I told you it happened back in August, and we're 4 wins away from making it happen. There we go. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Whew, a lot we talked about today. These finals are going to be amazing. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Thursday, 3 hours before Game 1 of the 2022 NBA Finals. Boston Celtics, Golden State. I got my Golden State Warriors winning in 5 games and obviously winning Game 1. We'll talk all about the finals, all about the storylines and this and that. NBA Finals Media Day is in 48 hours, so I'm sure we'll have some sound bites from certain guys. Surely we'll have a sound bite from Draymond to talk about on Thursday. But catch the show then, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. Also, if you're the Carving It Up podcast audience, we appreciate you guys listening to the show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. And on those podcasting platforms, be sure to check out, I've really enjoyed doing the series, episode 7 of the Carving It Up U.S. President's Edition. Be sure to check it out. This was probably my favorite episode because I think it had the biggest number, or the most, let's put it this way, the most great presidents that we covered in a single episode. So be sure to check it out. Episode 7 of the Carving Up U.S. President's Edition, available on all podcasting platforms that we're on and on YouTube. So check it out. Episode 8 will be available on Saturday morning, as it always is, at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific time. It's a 10-part series. We're coming to the end. It's crazy. Time has flown. In episode 10, we will rank. Isaac Lawson, my co-host, will rank the presidents. Be sure to check it out. All right. See you on Thursday. Enjoy this day off. Never forget our heroes on this Memorial Day. Stay safe out there, folks. God bless you all. Peace out. Finals bound, baby. Warriors in 5. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.